Hello and welcome to Weather Legends. Today we have a special guest, James Spann, a longtime television meteorologist and podcast host based in Birmingham, Alabama. He currently works for WBMA, Birmingham's ABC affiliate, and has covered numerous severe weather outbreaks and tornadoes in the Deep South. We welcome James to this edition of Weather Legends.
Well, it's an honor to be here. You fellas doing all right?
James, you're working the suspender look. I like that. I want to tell you that I live in North Georgia, and I learned very quickly that you are the king of severe weather across the Deep South, and my Facebook feed shows that on an almost regular basis. You're tremendous.
Well, I don't know if I'm tremendous. It's just that I enjoy what I do. I'm old as dirt, but I feel better now than I felt when I was 20 years old. I'm energized, cannot wait to come to work every day, even though I sleep 3 hours a night. I sleep every night from 1 to 4 a.m. But to do what I do in today's world, you have to live without sleep. But it's all good. I love what I do every single day. It's a joy. They pay me to do what I love to do.
That's good.
I have been a broadcast meteorologist for 47 years, which means I started in 1978. This is before you guys were born. And almost almost all of the time has been spent in Alabama. The first market was Tuscaloosa, which is a smaller market, then Montgomery, and then Birmingham. I came to Birmingham in 1979. And I've been here the whole time, with the exception of a little time in Dallas-Fort Worth. I was transferred to Dallas in the mid-'80s within the company I worked for. And I was the chief meteorologist for the CBS TV station in Dallas in the mid-'80s. But other than that, I've just been here a long, long, long time. One of the reasons I exist is to mitigate loss of life when there are tornadoes flying around here. That's what I was born to do. And we're still not where we need to be. We've got a long way to go. But understand, when I came along in 1978, we were using crude, primitive Enterprise Electronics radar displays from the WSR-57 radars that looked like a primitive version of Minecraft. So we've gone from that to obviously these good high-resolution displays. The big changes, of course, involved Doppler processing in the 1990s, where you started to see wind velocity, and then dual polarization, 2012, 2013, where you could see debris being lofted. So we're much better now than we used to be. But understand, guys, we're not where we need to be. The average lead time for a tornado warning here is about 12 to 15 minutes. A lot of my people live in manufactured housing away from municipalities. They need more than 15 minutes to get to a shelter or a place that can serve as a shelter. So we have to do better for them. We got to work on better lead times, and we've got to reduce the number of false alarms. We have a warning addiction problem in this country. The false alarm ratio is out of hand. And again, I'm not here to point fingers at any specific weather service office, but when your FAR is at a 0.9, 90% of tornado warnings are false alarms. What good are they? So I don't mean to get on my soapbox here, but that's one of the things we've got to do in weather enterprise is cut. There's so much hyperbole across social media. Every storm, it's the most violent storm that's ever happened. This will be a tornado outbreak you've never seen before. It's going to be worse than 2011. And we can't control what the TikTokers and the YouTubers do. That horse is out of the barn. But by golly, in the weather enterprise, we can control what we do, and we have to be better, and I have to be better.
Do you find there to be an uptick in the frequency and the intensity of severe weather across Alabama, the Deep South, within the last few decades, and particularly with tornadoes?
No. Now you're going to see a spike in the number of tornadoes that have been confirmed in the 1990s. Why is that? That's when Doppler radar came along, and we could identify small, brief tornadoes that we would never know about in the 70s and the 60s and before. So the numbers went up because of Doppler processing in the 90s, but the overall number of tornadoes, based on everything I've seen, and I look at this every day, has not changed. You guys should have lived through the 1970s. I thought the world was ending. I was an older child in the 1970s, and it was just surreal. But if you study the 1930s, look at the super outbreaks we've had here. The super outbreak of 2011, 1974, 1932, 1884. The curve is very, very flat since the late 1800s here in terms of the tornado frequency and intensity.
How do you address the modern day influx of enthusiasts, hobbyists, and amateur meteorologists on social media and digital platforms, whereas a notable percent are either intentionally or unintentionally often sensationalizing or overhyping weather events, some of which mostly for the purpose of gaining post likes and also in some cases for financial gain?
Well, and listen, some of this is coming from high school and middle school kids, and I don't want to stop any high school or middle school kid from sharing and learning how to communicate weather on social media. Goodness, when I was coming up, I had commercial radio. By the grace of God, I got a job in commercial radio when I was in high school. I learned a little bit about communication. I've never taken a class in communication. My first major was electrical engineering, and I finished in meteorology. So this has been a learning process. So I don't want to dampen any enthusiasm of a middle school or a high school kid who wants to communicate weather on social media, but you need to be responsible. In fact, that's the first thing I do when somebody applies for a job with me. I go look at their history of social media, going way back to when they were in high school. You've got to be careful with that. But yeah, there's some bad actors. We all know that. I mean, this is a gold mine. Whenever there's a tornado outbreak, whenever there's a hurricane, the amount of money they make off the creator content funds can be mind-boggling. One viral TikTok video can be worth $5,000. And truth doesn't matter to these people. They're just going to say what they're going to say. And they use fear. It's absolute fear porn to generate money for them. And shame on them. That's ridiculous. But we can't control that. What we have to do is to be a sane voice of reason in an ocean of insanity. And so to do that, number one, we have to be there for the people that follow us all the time. That's the one thing about the TikTokers and the YouTubers. They've learned that, if you're there for them, they'll find you. And many weather people, they still think, well, I'm just going to work a few hours a day and that's it. No. You've got to be there for them. And you've got to be responsive. You have to engage with them. And you got to be on all the platforms to engage with all the different people groups. And young people, they're just as important as older people. So I'm on TikTok. But they will ultimately seek out a level-headed approach after all this social media nonsense. And if you're there for them, and if your information is solid, and if you stay around for a while, they'll find you and they'll stick with you. So I'm very thankful for the people that follow me.